Hello, hello, hello! Welcome to Game Guru's Twitch broadcast. I have a treat for you today. We're going to make a game. It's going to be a popular game, but I can't use any branding, so it's going to be called the game where you're chased by statues that only move when you don't look at them. I was actually browsing the forums, the requests for what I should be talking about during these Twitches. And I saw a line requesting, well, maybe not even requesting it, just talking about some subject. And I thought, that's a good subject to make a game, so that's what I'm going to do. And of course, this is live, it's unrehearsed, unscripted. It was in danger of being scripted about half an hour ago, but then I just randomly changed my mind. I'm going to make a game. And what's really cool about this game is I'm just going to start off making a game that I think will be pretty cool because I've got a good idea. An interesting sort of game logic mechanic, which actually might turn into a pretty cool gameplay. And what I'd like, yeah, someone's already guessed it but I can't actually say it because I will be sued, so I'm not going to say it. Yeah, so my entire office lighting system just switched off, so I thought you might want to know that. Hopefully, this doesn't indicate that everything else is off. I have some limited UPS power supply backups, which keeps my main machines on. But when lights go, it could mean that everything else, including my broadband router at the other side of the house, is off. But I'm just going to talk for another 57 minutes in the hopes that you can still hear me and that the internet hasn't been switched off. And I'm just going to be talking to myself for an hour. Haha. So the game is simple. I'm going to start making a game. And you can post in the chat, because this is a live broadcast. You can post in the chat, and if you want something in the game, or you want me to change the game in any way, you write it in there. I'll keep glancing across the chat window, which is on another screen, and then I will add that to the game if possible. Okay, so let's get started right away by going into Game Guru. So you may or may not know we've released an update, 1.1, very recently as yesterday, which increases the performance of the engine quite markedly. Some people are getting different results. Some people are getting great, 300-400% speed ups. Other people are reporting no negligible increase in speed, or words to that effect. But I'm a bit concerned about those reports, so I want to investigate and find out, how can it be, with all our performance improvements that have, represented in the field as substantial increases in speed, while other people are reporting almost none. So I'd like to find out exactly why that is. Anyway, so you've probably also seen a few other things. If you've been used to the new update, we added this really cool video menu, so you can actually play different videos. Now these are no longer, in a previous version you would actually go to a website and watch these videos. We've actually dragged the videos, kicking and screaming, into the installer. So you don't need to sort of stream them in, they're already available. So even if you're offline, so you put Game Guru on your laptop and you're out of 3G range, you can still watch these videos. So we figured that was a nice, helpful way to sort of bring the Game Guru information closer to you. We've also got a pretty cool help PDF. I'm really pleased how the typesetting came out, and it's almost like a little mini manual on how to get started with Game Guru. We've also got a link to our Twitch videos. This will be one of them. I think we're up to Twitch broadcast 22 now, so lots of information on a variety of subjects, not necessarily always on topic. And then you've got to play play the games menu button, which then takes you to what we're calling our current showcase games. And by all means, these games can be improved over the next months and years as we work on Game Guru, both in visual terms, in terms of gameplay, again, more speed and more depth, and then multiple levels as well, so you can actually have several levels to play through. But these are our initial offerings, our shot across the bow, as it were. And the playable, they look okay, and you can learn a lot from loading in the levels. So you can click on either one of these. Let's say we pick the Asylum. Not only will it load the level in for you, so you don't have to go to the File, Open menu, but as soon as it's finished loading in the level, it'll actually tell you which button to press. So we went to a recent Play Expo event, and people didn't know what to do once they'd loaded the level in. So we popped this little dialogue, click the rocket icon in the bar above to play the level. So it pretty much tells you, you know, which of these many buttons to press to actually play your game. So we figured that was quite useful for people to know this. But that's an existing level. We want to make our own, and we're 6 minutes into the broadcast, so let's get cracking. I'm going to use a random level. A little bit about the random level. I quite like the random formation. It's sort of when you're right down into the level itself. So go right down and then just scroll like that. You know, it's not too. I mean, remember the old system? It had big flat areas. This doesn't have those, so it's nice and undulated. But we're getting some reports that it actually looks like a quilt from high up. Not that the player is, you know, 1,000 feet tall, but that is the report we got. So we're going to look at that perhaps, maybe change the rendering, the random algorithm a little bit. And also there's been a request for importing a height map. So when you go into File and you've got New Random Terrain, New Flat Level, new random level, you'll have new height map level or something, and then when you select that you can pick a height map file and it will actually generate the geometry of the terrain from a height map. And if anyone knows what height map means, you'll know there are plenty of tools out there to create some really stunning sort of terrain, you know, formed from weathering and erosion patterns and all this kind of stuff. So there's some really cool tools out there, and having that option will allow you to create some, you know, stunning terrain geometry right off the bat. So we're going to start with this, which I actually think is quite nice for now. And I'm going to create a little flatty area. So let's say the aim of the game is we start in a rickety old house. We don't know, and we've lost our memories, and we have to escape. Maybe we have to escape to a helipad. You know, you got a friend who's got a helicopter who's going to help you, but he can only land over here somewhere. Yeah. So let's make a helipad. So we've got to have it on stone. If we had it on grass, the helicopter might get stuck or something. So nice big flat area of concrete. And just so we know it's a helipad, let's write a nice big H. Like so. So we know where to land. And I think as well a helipad has a circle around it. And obviously we could do better than that, but you know, you're flying around in the sky. I think you know that's a helipad sort of. And then we'll just run a path from a helipad all the way through this mysterious valley that we're going to carve out, finally to the rusty old building over here, like that. And we obviously need a building, so let's get a bit closer to our construction site. And we're going to go into Entity Properties, we're going to find a building that we like. And what have we got? We've got asylum, stuffs, warehouses. I think we'll... Oh, we've got a buildings pack. What's in here? Oh, this is a bit of alright. Oh, wait there, that's a nice rickety shed. And if we drop that in, it seems a little big, doesn't it? I think what we're going to do is do a little test game to see how big it is compared to the player. So if we save that and then give it a test game, I think we'll find this building's actually quite big. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's fine, big barn. I just want it a little bit smaller. That's what we can do. Let's go back to the editor and reduce it a little bit. There you go. And then we start in this rickety place. Like we'll put it in there, and just to show it's abandoned, we'll have some rusty old barrels and these. So make sure they're static. The reason I make them static, which is the Y key, you can change it from dynamic to static, is the little red ones, the static ones, they just render faster. You know, if you make them like dynamic, and let's say for example you stack them up like this, when you start the game they actually have physical properties, so they'll act like an actual physics, whereas the red ones, the static ones, they should bake into the geometry, they stay very fast, you can have lots and lots of them. Dynamic ones, be a bit more spurring in how you actually use them. So again, we'll just mix it up a little bit. Obviously you can spend a long time, but you know, it's just a starting point. And also, let's have a little bit of a light. So if I had, this is a yellow light, but let's just change it a little bit to an orangey sort of colour. So we have red. I think that would probably be something like say FF 80 and then 40. 40. Yep. And apply that. And then we've got a there, and then we can use these widgets to sort of move the light inside. So it's inside there. Excellent. So now I've got a little bit of a light going on. Obviously it's going to be really easy to find the helipad if it's just a straight run, so we're going to add a few trees just to break up a little bit. So I'm going to put in some of these jungly trees. You notice it's green, you think, oh, why don't I make it red then you can have lots of them? Well, you can do that, but you'll notice it slightly animates, and so if anything animates in your level, then it needs to be dynamic. It needs to be able to move, even if it is rooted on the spot, like a tree might be. Let's have another one. Rotate that a little bit. Hold down shift so you can have more than one. One there, one here, and so. We've got... No, actually, let's have a bit more foliage, actually. If we pick a fern, press the I key, and then press the Y key as well, what you'll see is that's just adding one, but if you press the I key and then hold down, you see you can spread them all around like this. Cool. And now let's see if we can find another fern. So yeah, that one's a red one. Press I and spread these, and what will happen is these are all static. And what I want you to show you is a new feature we've added in the 1.1 update, which is entity group selection. Now normally in Game Guru, up until very recently, if you wanted to then delete your foliage, let's say you want to clear the path, you'd have to click on each individual one and delete it, which, let's face it, is very tedious. Now you can actually highlight several at once and just take out huge chunks of entities as you see fit. So, you know, we want our path clear, so we just follow our path. Anything that gets near the path, delete it. See, those are definitely out of the way. Of course, there's other things you can do with entity select. For example, you know, we want foliage, we just don't want on the path. So what you could do is highlight some, and then make sure you stay in the 3D editor view, and then click that, and you can drag it like that. So you can drag it out of the way. Another cool thing about the group select, if you hover over it and then hold down Control and then click any of the other elements in the selection, you notice the widget moves to it. I think, well, what's the point of that? Well, you know, you can move the handle to a better place. But what you can also do is, if you now go to the rotate, you see it rotates around the entity that was in control of the widget. So we highlighted it all again and selected Control, hold down Control, then click that one, and then go to rotate. Then it rotates around that, you see. So you've actually got localized rotation based on whatever the widget is actually hovering over. So that's another thing. Also, you've got simple things like if you delete all them, oh, I've just deleted them all, just Control Z, will bring them all back. So you've got that kind of thing. And I suppose the last thing we'll want is some sort of confinement, so we don't go running off. So we'll just, and it's also important that, you know, when you do a game that you make it pretty clear what the player has to do. If you make a massive world, but the player has no idea what they're supposed to be doing in that world, they just wander aimlessly, then they get bored, and then they switch your game off and then say it's rubbish. Now, you know, you don't want to treat your players like idiots by just doing one straight line from beginning to end and then seem to follow that line, because that just makes a boring game. So you've got to find like a nice juxtaposition between the two, so you are leading the player cleverly through the story of the game, but not so much as to insult their intelligence. And of course, at the start of the game you want to make it a little easier than regular, just to give people a chance to learn the ropes. But then of course once you get to level 2, level 3 and level 4 and the like, then of course you can assume that they're picking up the basics, and then you can carry on to more interesting things, more challenges. Don't necessarily give them a straight line to the end. So as you can see, I've completely messed up the thing, because how are you going to carry on the path here? I've just built a wall across it. So we're going to do that, and maybe we use our group selection thing again, which is pretty cool. All them should come out a bit more. In fact, one of the things I'm going to do at the moment, the group select only works on a single coordinate. You see, it only detects the coordinate in the very centre of this fence. It's same with that one, which works great for small objects, but for large things like fences, I think you kind of want to be able to pick up that fence just as you encroach on its bound box. So as soon as you get to say there, it should pick up the fence. So I'm going to add that into an update just to make it a little bit more powerful. So now we've got our path back, and let's just make sure that the player can turn. But let's not get paranoid, you get the idea. So that gets you to the helipad. Now, but you're thinking, well, you got a helipad, where's the helicopter? I don't think we've got a helicopter model. We don't. And there's not much chance of being able to construct one out of bits of cans and refuse from the entities. I suppose we could build one out of tyres, but that would take quite a while. What would we have? Well, let's have a bit of a browse. Mega Pack usually contains lots of things. Maybe there is a helicopter. Let's have a good shufty. Industrial, big machine, consoles. What have we got? Got some tables and chairs. No, it can't really set off to the sky. Some tables and chairs, some castles, bookshelves, decals, explosions, lights, dungeon pieces, fixtures and fittings, furniture, flying to the sky and some furniture. Here we go. We've got interesting things here. Okay. Big fire pot decorated. Alright, I've got an idea if I make my helicopter. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to rotate this like so. I want 2 of them. Actually, a helicopter could be a nice big one, couldn't it? Okay, let's do that. So increase the scale a little bit. Extract that, use shift to make 2 of them. Then we're going to have this, which I don't know what it is. Originally used for, but I'm now going to use it as my perfectly cool helicopter. So we make it a bit higher, so you got that little bowl thing on, and there you go. So you got the little strut things. Actually, that's now a bit too big, isn't it? So just make it a bit smaller then. Make that big, and then move it to place, and then down. I think we're off. Yeah, I thought we was. So there you go. And then we want some sort of big propeller on top. Round window simple. What's this? Oh, rather conveniently huge. Use page up in order to get yourself some keyboard shortcut, and then we've got that. Now, would it be possible to make that a little bit bigger, just for a sense of grandioseness? Yeah, possible. Move back to position. Position it in the centre again. Excellent. Well, it's not excellent. It's absolutely atrocious. However, imagine it's a helicopter. Okay. Obviously, we need the tail and the stuff, but I might add that a bit later with a bit more time. And then we'll use a green light up above. Actually, we'll have a green light. We'll have a red light, like that. And then we'll just save what we've got. Now, I'm going to pause here now, and I'm going to run to test game and see what my game looks like so far. And whilst we do that, I'm going to glance over to the chat to see if anyone's got any changes they want to make to my little terrible game. So there we are, starting off in a little hut. Obviously, I think I'm going to make it a night sky, actually. Make it like a creepier sort of experience. So we'll go for night, and we'll set the terrain to forest floor. Makes it a bit grungier. And then we'll bring in the night a bit. So we'll bring the fog right in, and then we'll set the fog to dark, so it's a dark moon. A little bit of blue, so the moon reflecting, and also the intensity. We set intensity really high. We're drawing everything out. Just move this back. I think that's a bit too much. I do. So we'll just bring that out a bit more. Reduce the intensity a touch. Yeah. So there you go. Last little bit of creepy night. And you know what? It was say creepy night, but it's silent, isn't it? What we really want is some sort of noise, like crickets or things like that. We can do that when we get back. So we're running through, just about to see our path and some trees. And now we're kind of getting onto the idea, oh, there's something, let's follow these, and then you go around there, and then da-da, you see the helicopter flickering and upside down. So there's probably something to do with occlusion, with upside down, massively increased in size cooking pots. So we'll have to look at that. But there is an occluder slider here, so you can control the intensity of the occlusion. So you can play around with that. So if your scene starts to sort of make objects disappear in the distance and you don't want them to, just reduce this occlusion value, and that will sort of reduce the intensity at which the occlusion tries to hide everything it possibly can. There's other little cool features that you may find useful, such as you can see the fence in the distance. We can actually increase depth of field intensity a lot, then bring the distance closer to you. Now what happens? It blurs. So what you do, you control the distance at which you want your blur to start, then the intensity of that blur, and you get a nice little out of focus distance. And that creates something really nice. And just to add a little bit of a movie moment, there's another really cool effect called vignette. What you can do is set the vignette intensity to 100, reduce the radius, increase the radius to 100, and you see what's happened to the edges of the screen. Now it's gone nice and sort of movie-goer sort of look. Well, all these little things will help you create that final visual for your game. Just want to check to me that was that a dynamic or yeah, it was static. Okay, so we'll save that again. And like I said, yes, I'll scroll to the top. I just noticed a comment. It's looking like the Da Vinci helicopter. It probably is actually. Maybe that's where I'm getting my inspiration. So I'm going to scroll to the top of the chat window because usually I can rabbit on and the chat window stays relatively empty, but today it's really buzzing. So I'm going to have to do a bit of reading here. Comment number 5 from Friendly42. Laugh the universe and everything like it. The question is, can my game made with Guru to be published in Steam? Technically, yes. You can make a standalone executable and it will be ready for running on everyone's machine. And you can wrap it up and actually sell it on Steam. But two things. One, you've got to get onto Steam, which is not an easy thing. You have to get greenlit, or you've got to get recommended or helped on to Steam in one way or another. And two, you want to make sure the quality of what you actually put on Steam is pretty decent. So all your own graphics, your own sound, great story, good gameplay, things like that. Otherwise the Steam community will not take kindly to you putting a game on Steam. So those are the two big watchwords. But technically you can do that, absolutely. And we're actually going to be implementing sometime in 2016 a lot of Steam friendly mechanics. So you know, you can have achievements and other elements of the Steam architecture built into what you kick out. So instead of having something like we should go to file menu where you see save standalone, you'll actually be able to go into a dialogue and you can specify, I am specifically building this for Steam, and then we'll build an executable that's very Steam friendly. But you can just have a regular executable, and then Steam will wrap it up and then you can sell it on Steam. That's not a problem. But the question is, should you? And what kind of game, do you want in terms of quality before you expose yourself to thousands of very honest critics, and they won't hold back. Rick Vanna says, hi gurus, so hello back. Matt Command confirms that it should be fairly straightforward. There's a Minecraft mod that does the same, so yeah, cool. And Sparrowhawk says to refer to the guide that's built into Game Gurus, so you can check that out for more information on what I've just been talking about. Amaris, he sent a question. Team answered me in less than 2 hours of the solution for the problem, so no need to ask the question here. Yeah, if you go into the Steam forums or the other forums, We're pretty quick, especially at the moment. Now we've released our performance update, we're all sort of hanging around the community answering questions and helping where we can, because we've given ourselves a couple of days of a breather whilst we just answer, issues that are outside of the realm of a bug fix. It's more about, how do I do this? I know Game Guru can do it, I just don't quite know the steps to take. Well, we're here to help you in that, and also identify all those little niggly pebble bugs that you want fixing sooner rather than later, but don't constitute a big feature ad, in which case we're going to do a sequence of updates up to Christmas to sort of help you with those things. So watch out for those. Watch out for updates on Steam. They'll come automatically for you. We've got a question from Mike Command. How's the progress on the new code base? It's been a while since I've spoken to Mike. New code base. Well, if you're in reference to the C++ conversion, it is finished. We released it yesterday, and it's performing really, really well. And what it's going to allow us to do is have a proper debugger. So when we can drill down now, when someone reports a bug, we can pretty much identify where the bug is almost immediately, and then we can debug through the reasons why, and then get it fixed quite promptly. Plus, doing things like multi-core and adding new features also becomes a lot easier in C++, because it's really it's our native language, the one we use for everything. You think DB Pro might be, but how do you think DB Pro was built? It was built in C++. It's sort of the origin language that everyone in the team uses. So we're very, very capable and fast developers when we have C++ in front of us. So it's all good. And we finished it. Obviously we've got a few more things to do, like we're going to multi-core more of it. The DX11s are going to be multi-threaded rendering, all that kind of cool stuff. So there's more C++ to come, but the code base, as it is, has now been permanently converted, and I think earlier today, this morning, we removed the last of the old DB Pro comments that guided us as to what bits of the C++ did what. So we've removed all that now. So it's clean, nice C++ moving forward. So we're pretty excited about that. Just scrolling through, seeing if I can find any question marks. Mike Man asks, why not add a search function to the props manager then? Yeah, we have a plan for that, like a scene graph, a tree view of all the entities in the scene, so you can just scroll through it all, and possibly even a little search box, so it's the crate but you don't know where it is in the tree. You can just tap out crate and it'll highlight it for you. But these things are going to come with the new IDE update. It's not going to be an IDE like this Windows, where you've got drop down menus and toolbars that pretty much highlight, but that's about it. We're going to have a sort of a dark glass effect, so it's a full screen editor, and then you can bring in the panels and the sliders and buttons as you need them. So it'll be a very nice system, and it will include all these sort of advanced manipulation features that you're expecting out of the editor. But we didn't really want to do it now and then have to replace it all again. We'd rather just write it once and write it properly, like we did the performance work. So kind of watch this space for that. Okay, new update is awesome. I love the new UI. Blah blah blah. Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, we're proud of it as well, and we're happy with the performance and all the little features we managed to squeeze in, like that, for example. Okay, have we got another question? What's Lee been drinking today? I haven't been drinking anything. Honest. I actually did get a consignment of Christmas drinks in a big box, but I've put them to one side because they're for Christmas. That's the whole point, isn't it? Besides, I never drink it during working hours. It's not professional. Let's scroll down. Okay, cool. So at least one person likes my helicopter, which is great. Yep, someone's actually joined the chat who actually doesn't own Game Guru. They've just checked us out, broadcast from some other location, and I must be saying the right sort of things because they're going to run off and buy Game Guru now, so that's cool. So thanks for that, and yeah, we'll be here for years and years and years. So keep Game Guru hanging around every 6 months. Keep checking it out if you're not quite ready to deep dive into game development, because we're going to keep adding features, making it faster, making it look better. It's going to be awesome. Rick Van is talking rubbish again, so I'm going to ignore all that.
His last comment on the thread was "leap of faith required!" exclamation mark. We got a proper question from AF9520. Are there plans to update hit detection or add an animation? Sometimes I feel I'm not hitting the target gun or while firing a gun. I think a flinch animation would be nice.
Yeah, there's two things about that. One, there was an update. You know, the version that was on Steam before yesterday did have some issues with firing a gun at, say, fantasy characters or zombies, and even though, you know, your bullet's supposed to have passed through them, they didn't actually register a hit. Well, that's been fixed now with a flag called CPU Anims, which takes the sort of older legacy models that they were based on and conforms them so hit detection is super accurate. So those work now. But there's another issue that I think it refers to, which is sometimes when you're dropping a character and shoot that character, they don't seem to do anything. I mean, I'll give you a perfect demonstration. If I just go all the way back to the beginning of my level, and I will give myself a weapon, something that won't shoot out 1,000,000 bullets, just one bullet, a Colt 1911. Give myself 100 bullets and 1,000 health so I can survive through this test. And then I will add a target, someone I can take pot shots at. Let's say the masked soldier. And drop him in, say, here. Save my level and run. Remember, save early, save often. And save under different file names, ideally. So, what you'll find is I can shoot this guy, but all you'll really notice is the little blood splat coming out. He won't actually react to it. Let's say he shoots me. And then I shoot him. You see? You notice a little bit of a waist twist when you hit him and the blood splat. Which we thought was acceptable. You know, it showed a little bit of movement. But I think what you really want is a proper flinch animation, where if you hit him in the left shoulder, it would actually, his left shoulder would dirt back. Same with the legs, same with the other parts of the body. And we do have ideas to integrate that, but not hard coding it, because what we want to do is move out of this idea of hard coding stuff and get it more into the hands of you guys, sort of into the community. So we're going to do that through what's called our Lua architecture work. So when you shoot a limb, you'll actually get a condition firing off in a script which says, hey, you've just shot this guy in the shoulder, and then you can trigger some animations. You can say, oh, well, I know which animation there is for actually moving the shoulder, and then you can have that played. And what's really cool about our animation system is you can animate parts of the model, not all the model. So even though you've got an animation which animates the entire model, you can say, play the animation, but only play it on the shoulder and the spine and the upper body and the neck and the head. You see? So when you play the animation, it only actually animates those parts of the model and then blends the rest in. And it's actually quite effective. That means you can sort of be running whilst doing a shoulder hit, things like that. So that's something we'll be doing in Lua rather than us hard coding it into the AI system. Because what we find is every time we hard code something to make it easier to use, the very next day somebody wants to change a parameter or an attribute that we hadn't considered. So by externalizing it into the form of this Lua architecture, we'll be able to give you that kind of power. And of course we'll be continuing to produce assets, characters, more animations. We have been tossing around the idea of allowing you to adding motion capture animations, so you can tag new animations into existing models. So if we don't have an animation that you need, you can go out and get your own and drop it onto the rig, and then you can have additional animations for your game. Which I think is sort of a standard. You're going to want that if you want to do sort of that nth degree, really great quality game creation experience. But all in good time, and in the order in which the community are voting for these ideas. VRG asks, will there be an extract function with multi-selection tool? You will be surprised. In fact, no, you won't be surprised how many people have asked for this feature. And what he means by that is, let's say I highlight all these things, and naturally I can move them about, which is very useful, and you can rotate them. You can even scale them. I don't know why you'd want to, but there, you can scale everything en masse. But what you want to be able to do is to make copies of it. What if I wanted one, say, here, and then another one here, without me having to redo everything there? You could do it with one building. You can extract, paste that down, move it, and then paste it again. But you want to be able to do it with everything. So extract everything, paste in a copy, move, paste in another copy, and so on and so forth. And it becomes especially true if you've spent like 2 hours decorating the inside of a building
and you don't have to keep doing it over and over again, that feature becomes absolutely crucial. And so you can almost imagine I'm absolutely in favour of an extract. And there's another one at the same time I'd like to add as well. I mean, it's already on our internal feature list, so don't think you have to keep badgering us. We are going to do this. Is the property editor. So just as you've only got position, rotate and scale, but you don't have properties, imagine being able to highlight lots of entities and then being able to change just an individual field. I mean, this comes in particularly handy. Let's say you wanted to create a mob of large fatty zombies, like so. And after you've positioned them all down, you then suddenly realise, wait a minute, I want them all to be hidden. If I can do it with one, I can go to one zombie and I can set spawn at start, no. That means that zombie won't appear immediately in the game, it'll appear later on. And instead of slow zombie 4, you just want a nice name that you can use later on in your scripting logic to show them, called zombie. So that's fine for one, but now I have to do it for each individual entity, and it gets very boring. Wouldn't it be nice if I could highlight them all, select properties, change the name, change the property of the spawn at start, and then instantly all them zombies won't show at the start of the game, and with a single call to, you know, when you stand in the zone, then spawn all them based on the zombie name, then they'll all appear. Much easier, much more elegant. So the properties field and the extract field will be added because it's something I want to see very much. So it's probably going to be done in the next couple of updates. So keep your eye out for that. So hopefully that asks the question. And there it says, I have never been drunk and I will never be drunk again. Good quote. Do we have another question? Well, I'll read it out. It's from VRG. I have some problems with selecting after testing the beta test level. The object will not light red or green. I'm going to rebuild such a level to see if the problem is gone. Yeah, if you've got a level where you can reproduce that, just email it to me. It's lee@thegamecreators.com. It's the best way for me to see a bug. If you send me a piece of custom media or a level and a step-by-step, show me what I need to do so I can see the issue, then I can totally fix it, and I want to fix it. You know, for the next 5 weeks, this is the time of the bug fix. This is the time of removing all them little pebbles out of all them shoes that are just making your journey down the road of game creation a little bit uncomfortable. So that's what I want to do, so please, please, please send me those issues straight to my inbox, then we'll get fixed. But if I can try and repeat your issue, if I just run this game now, albeit my game is just going out the window because I'm now using it as a sort of as a test bed now for trying lots of different things. I think I've got enough ammo to get rid of all these zombies one by one, but they don't seem to be minding my I suppose that's why they're called brain dead. But you said if we now came out of the game and they stop highlighting, well, they're still highlighting for me. So you see the inherent problem with like one-liner bug reports. I do what I think has been reported, but I don't get to the same result, you see. I don't get the bug, so there's nothing I can fix. So if you can send me more info, that'd be cool. And we've got another request from AOF 520. Also, tree bundles would be nice. I suck at tree layouts, and pre-made layout bundles would help me. Yeah, all we've really got right now, and there's going to be a little improvement because I've added it to my feature list because it should be quite easy to do. If I give you like this perm, like that, you're right, doing this for what? The entire world would be a little bit boring. I absolutely agree with you on that. If you press the I key, you've got spray mode, so you can spray lots of trees, which is it's okay. That gets you to the next level. You can do quite a lot of trees very quickly. Make sure they're static. If you're doing this many trees, please don't make them dynamic. Or if you do, just add a few dynamic ones, and only if they animate. Because static ones are a lot easier to render, a lot faster to render too. So that's how you would have a lot of trees very quickly. You can just do them anyway. You notice how they slightly rotate a little bit? They also change size a little bit as well. And of course, once you finish, you want to make sure that you've not completely... Oh! Make sure you've not completely screwed up your level. So you can sort of very carefully find out which ones to delete them. Just so you can move around still. But I think what you're perhaps talking about is the idea that you can have collections, like 3 or 4 different trees, and then stamped in, like a big grove or something. But we're going to need to have a bit of a discussion with the community on how that looks, how the UI works, things like that. One thing, like I mentioned earlier, I want to do is right now the spray mode is pretty indiscriminate. You know, you say I, and it just does that. You know, so it's 10 trees randomly positioned, so it will add up to 10 trees and then start changing their locations. So you're not just adding more and more on trees, and so it's just a big solid area of trunk, which isn't going to be much use if a sort of a forest game where you can't even get through the trees because there's that many trees. So you see, it just moves the positions of trees within a certain radius after 10 count has been reached. But one thing I'd like to do is, instead of just having this arbitrary radius, you notice here, is have a control. We already have it, but it's only used for lights. You see this, where you got the radius controlled with the plus and minus key? I'd actually like to have that with the spray tool, so then you can change the size and spray at different radiuses. I think that'd be a neat, really easy add, but also a very useful add as well for people who are using this kind of thing a lot. And not just trees, like I saw before, putting foliage down on the floor is also a great way. Another little tip as well is if you can match up your foliage with the terrain texture as well, they'll blend nicer, and then you get this idea of sort of a non-flat terrain floor, which increase the quality of the games that you create. So just something to punch in there. Got a question from Sparrowhawk. Sounds like a request actually. Sparrowhawk A would ask, I'd like to see a fence tool at some point. At the moment we're placing fence components. That's why poly-intensive, doubling up on fence posts. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, the post could be reused rather than having to overlap the posts. Which would actually require a little bit of fiddling about from our end, I suppose, because it's not just a case of taking an enter and then pasting it down. It's taking an enter and then sort of pasting it down, but then removing the redundant post. To give you some idea of what the hell I'm bleating on about, I'll show you a scenery item that uses a post. For example, I suppose this is the closest we can use for now. As you can see, we have a fence. Now imagine that the 2 fence posts at either end was actually some formalised post. And I put one down, then the next one would go there, then the next one would go there. Right now, we're having to overlap 2 sets of geometry, you see, so it's extra polygons. Whereas the beauty of having a fence system is it would know that, oh, that's the connecting post, so it basically just hides that piece of post. And then you'd be able to just draw a fence much quicker. You see where I'm having to rotate, place, rotate a bit more, and also that then you've got this funny job of trying to connect them up at the end of the day. A fence drawing tool would do it all automatically for you, practically instantaneous. You just draw that shape and you instantly get a fence that shape. And we were actually going to implement that, but what we implemented instead, because of its it had wider implications, we had more things we could do with it. Let's see why I added, say, this wall. And I probably want a nice flat terrain for this demonstration, so I'll just go to this terrain, increase my brush. This bit just flattens out terrain, very useful, and then maybe change the floor texture a bit and go back to our entity. What we added was snap mode. So if I extract it from the map, so it's on my cursor, and then press B, you'll notice in the status bar at the bottom it says snap. If I hold down shift and click once, and then you notice how it magnetically clicks there. We added that instead. So the idea is you can actually make a fence by snapping it together, like so. But you know what? Having implemented it, and more accurately, having used it for a bit, 2 things were apparent. One, the magnetic lock isn't strong enough, so you have to get really quite close before you actually find that lock point. And this takes time. So now I'm actually taking quite a bit of time making the fence, which was supposed to be a really quick process. So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to increase that magnetic strength so it locks from a further distance, which will make your fence building a little easier. But we're also going to start thinking about the possibility that certain entities could be identified as fence entities. So instead of having to click, 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 constantly let going and releasing and repressing the button, what if you could just take an entity that is identified as a fence piece, click and hold, and then just drag in that direction. And what it does, it just places the entities one after the other
up to the length of where you've just stretched it out to. So that's something we have been thinking about, but we really wanted to give the snap feature as much of a try as possible. So the Fence 2 may be a feature that's small enough we can put in an update, but I rather think it's sort of an extension of something much bigger, something more powerful that we could make into something we put onto the voting board. Because I'm sure a lot of community members will want other things. You know, maybe not everyone wants the fence builder, they want something else that we should be working on as more important, which is why the voting board exists. So if it's not already on the voting board, we should probably add it there. But in the meantime, as I'm doing the magnetic stuff on the snapping system, if I suddenly say, oh, wait a minute, I could do this, and then it's a sort of a fence building system, then I'll probably look at that. VRG says performance is good, and it says a great update, so thanks for that. We're really, really happy how it came out. And the fact that, having changed the entire engine, it didn't explode instantly. And now it says, I suppose Sparrowhawk's request, by the way, also a big drag replace successive fence parts would be great. Yeah, as I demonstrated, that would be a really cool feature. VG asks, is the beta test level not too big to upload in the forum? The beta test level? Yeah, you could upload it any way you like. Just stick it in as an attachment on the forum or email me directly. Anything under 20 megabytes I can receive as an email, that's fine. But anything over, you're going to have to use some upload service and then send me the link to that upload file. It's the only way you can really do it. Wormer says that VRG had a highlighting issue that could be solved if you switch back to entity mode. Yes, there is a very distinction between the two modes. Right now I'm in entity mode because I can highlight things, like so. If I went to terrain mode, which is these little hills here, you notice I've now got the big circle and I'm not highlighting the entities. The two very distinct modes with their own set of features. So terrain mode will let me paint terrain. If I press 1, I can raise terrain. If I hold down shift with the left mouse button, I can make big holes in the terrain. If you make them deep enough, you can actually create water, like so. But if you then wanted to sort of edit the buildings, the trees, the vegetation, the walls, etc., you either have to press the E key, which switches to entity mode, or you're going to press the little cube, which sets you to entity mode, and now you can highlight again. But by all means, if you're definitely not in entity mode and you come back from your test level, but you're still not be able to highlight entities, then definitely report it to me. Another reason you may not be able to highlight an entity is if you're in tab mode. Well, by that what I mean is there's another little tweak we made. If I show you like a light, which we call markers, and you can click it, you can move it around, you can make it higher and lower, all this kind of cool stuff. If I press tab, you notice everything's disappeared and you think, oh, why has everything disappeared? It's called clip mode. It will clip all geometry below a certain level. If you hold down control and use the mouse wheel, you notice the status bar at the bottom. It's clip equals 700, now clip equals 800, and the world is actually generated in 3D, and it has an X and a Z, which is the, you know, how wide it is and how far away it is. You've got a Y coordinate as well, which actually controls the height of everything in the world, which is what this clip number represents, the Y-axis position at which you clip the scene. And the reason you have this feature, and my point is that, you see, I can't, well, I'll show the better way to show you a building, which is what it's about. If I go and pick just a regular building, not from those packs, let's just go to a standard one, like this, combat building. If I press tab again to remove the clip mode, that's what you normally see, and it's like, well, that's great, but how do I get into that door and start putting my furniture in? I could zoom into the building, but then look how close I am, and I'm constantly saying, oh, the roof's in the way again. Just press tab, and it'll clip at whatever the Y value is, the sort of the vertical height can be faded out and clipped. And that number there, 1539, is the location, the coordinate for that Y position. And holding down control and mouse wheel, you can raise it and lower it as you see fit. And so you actually have different selection modes. You see now you can put that down. But look, when I click the building in tab mode, in clip mode, I'm not selecting it, because you don't really want to be constantly
clicking the floor when all you want to do is click that barrel. Now you can rubber band and select it, but for single clicks it's very good to put down your furniture like this without the inconvenience of having that. But there's another way you can do that as well. You can select it and then click lock, but this for a single one, that is. So if I go to and select lock, it kind of does the same thing, you see. So you can select the objects, but you get to see sort of a ghost of the entity in case you needed a reference to the roof or something like that. And just by holding down shift and hovering over the ghosted locked object, you can restore it. So there's lots of different modes for different ways in which you want to edit inside and outside of buildings. So let's see if there's any other questions. I think we're all right. Actually, we're getting to the end of the chat bit. Yeah, VIG confirms he wasn't in terrain mode, so it does sound like a little bit of an issue, if not a bug. So please do post it to lee@thegamecreators.com. Sparrowhawk says the snap feature is definitely a good feature and very useful, but not always so effective for non-flat terrain. But as you say, probably more of a votable future feature. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's because the magnets aren't that strong. When you've got an undulating terrain, let's say this hill here, it's a little bit off. I mean, that's why I flatten things before I use the snap tool. If I switch to snap, well, I'm still on snap, cool, and I click, let's use a small thing like this fence, and I put it down, snap, you can see it snap, but watch as I get up the hill. You see, I'm battling the vertical because it wants to raise it. You see, it wants to keep it above the floor so I can continue to see it. But that's in conflict with me wanting to magnetically lock onto that. I wanted the fence to go nicely into the terrain, but it kind of won't let me. See, I have to do all these crazy things like zoom in a little bit more so I can get an idea of 2 axes. Then I've got to use page down to sync it to a point where it can magnetically lock and then click. You see, it's possible, but I wouldn't say it's as intuitive as it could be, and that's really what we're going to combat with the sort of undulating terrain scenario, because in snap mode it still wants to move the entity above the floor, but that's not necessarily what you want sometimes. And we can't just arbitrarily say, when you're in snap mode, don't follow the terrain, because then you may want it to follow the terrain. So you can see the dilemma. So we need to come up with a nice intuitive solution, which is all things to all people. So it's something to check out as we do the increased magnetic lock thing, which I will remember to add after this broadcast is over. Micah Man asks, that reminds me, any future plans for adding water and caves at any height level? You know what, only yesterday as I was testing the release, I got to think, we had it in Classic, and FPS Creator Classic, and I enjoyed it a lot actually, which is the idea that right now you've got this. Now that's a standard water table at 600 units above zero, and it's fixed. The only way you can sort of manipulate the sort of water is by changing all the landscape to be, concerned around that level. So let's say you'd already made your entire level, and then you now wanted to put some water in and around it. You'd have to sort of re-edit all your terrain just to get down to the water table, going to that level. Now, as physically accurate as that is, one cannot change the water table in the real world. This isn't the real world. We can make our universe as we see fit. So which brings me to my idea, which is quite simple and it's just stolen from FPS Creator Classic, which is you will be able to change the height of that water. So instead of having to redo all your landscape or bring a hill right down to here, I mean, you've got the ramp tool which could make that a little bit easier for you. So you can go from that level down to the water, so you can have a drink of water or whatever it is that you wanted it to do. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just raise that water up to whatever level you need it at? And it's relatively easy to implement as well. But there's not been a lot of requests for it. I mean, there's been requests for separate water bodies and bodies of different heights and volumetric water cubes that you could enter and out. And interesting game ideas. But in terms of just a simple, can we just raise that water please in the editor? And also, can we have control of that water in Lua so we can actually flood rooms and terrain as we see fit? Then yeah, absolutely. But because we've got other issues like water is deadly right now, you even step one foot in it and then you die.
having an ability to increase the water table and drain everyone in the game wasn't probably the best idea I had in the world. But yeah, now someone's actually mentioned it in the chat, I will give it a thought, see actually how much work is involved, and if it actually is just a few bits of code and an extra line and it can squeeze into the update, then yeah, let's go for it. I think it'd be really cool that it could have scripts that increase the water table and have puzzles where you have to drain a room of water before you can go in and collect an item or flick a switch or something like that. You know, maybe keeping the water deadly for a bit longer feeds into those sort of puzzles. So yeah, if someone can remind me, send me an email about that. I'll add it to our right list, and it may very well go into an update if the implementation's pretty smooth. Okay, so A of 520 is excited, which I'm very pleased about. VRG asks, will there be the environment spray function in GG, like I said in the cave tutorial? Like you said in the cave tutorial, I'm not immediately familiar with the cave tutorial, but then my memory's terrible. Environmental spray function in GG. So we have literally 3 minutes left, so if you can expound on that a little bit, pretend I'm a 4-year-old and I don't know anything. If you can explain it in those terms, then we might be able to get an answer out of me before this broadcast terminates on the hour. Okay, so I think that's the end of it. Yeah, there's no more questions. If you've got any questions, you literally have less than 3 minutes to ask those. I hope you like my game. Obviously there's no win zone at the moment, so we'll just make it official by putting in how do I win my game. Well, we'll go down to markers, we'll add a win zone. As soon as you get within a couple of meters of a helicopter, then you can win the game, which would be cool. Let's get rid of clipping, which is now off. Now we can move that. You remember earlier I said something about clipping having 2 different ways it manages entities. Well, one of the things is it ignores trigger and marker zones in order so you can edit the things that are under the... If you do something like that, but the entity that you want to move is underneath the trigger zone, you press the clip and then it will prioritise the item underneath the trigger zone. So that's a pretty cool feature as well. So now when you enter there, you'll actually win the game. So we'll save, we'll run, and we'll see what happens. Do we have some elaboration? I think we may do. Okay, thanks. It would be nice if you could have a set of canal locks. Yeah, that would be more difficult because you'd have 2 different water levels, wouldn't you? You wouldn't just have a water table, you'd have water volumes that have their own individual heights. And because we're not on a sort of 90-degree grid anymore, you can't do a nice simple square volume. You'd have to have a volume that's a sort of a blobby sort of shape. It gets very technically icky. And most games don't really go for realistic water simulation, they just hack it with a couple of planes and a nice little shader and a bit of reflection. So we'll have to look a little bit closer at that. My command says you can drain and raise when you open the floodgates. You can sort of do that if you had sort of 2 different rooms and you never let the user see the other side of the wall. Then you can definitely do that and create a story around that. But you can't see them both at the same time. And Neris says that helicopter should really make it into the next release. You know what? It probably will. No, seriously. We've got some really nice ideas in the future for vehicles. Underground vehicles, sailing vehicles, ground vehicles and air vehicles. But we're going to save all that really cool stuff for a future big update when we can spend a long time on the physics. I think physics is vital to get right when you're doing vehicles, and we don't just want to rush it in at this stage, so keep your eye out on that. Less than a minute to go, so I'm just going to read the last 2. Yeah, when you're going to Barbaros and create a happy little game for the guru trees, lol. Last one, I mean to give the environment the same colour when you use different texture colours. Alright, yes, so basically you can actually paint bits of the terrain texture onto an entity but blend them. Yeah, that's another techie difficult thing to do, so we're going to have to discuss that in another broadcast, because guess what, we have run out of time, less than 30 seconds left. So thanks very much for your attention. This was Game Guru. Twitch is every Wednesday at 4 PM, probably going to be Ravy next week because it's his turn, so I hope you enjoyed it, and until then I shall say goodbye.